and welcome today to the show. Welcome to Take Note. My name is Letitia Nolan, and today's Take Note message will be coming out of Exodus chapter 3, verse 9 through 10. Again, that's Exodus chapter 3, verse 9 through 10. It says, "Now therefore, behold, the cry of the children of Israel has come to me, and I also seen the oppression with which the Egyptians oppressed them. Come now therefore, and I will send you to Pharaoh, that you may bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt." So this, just to give you a little bit of backdrop, we're on chapter 3, the beginning of it. Moses now is seeing a bush that is just being consumed, burning but not being consumed, not burning up. And so Moses now is inquisitive. He wants to find out, why is this bush burning, but it's not being consumed, it's not burning up. So Moses decided that he'll go closer to this burning bush to try to see if he could figure out, well, what's causing it to just be on fire and burn but not be consumed. And as Moses decided to go closer, now God has this opportunity to now speak to Moses, to get ready to give Moses an assignment that he wants him to do. So Moses gets a little closer, and God tells him to pretty much stop, because now he's close enough, and the place that which he is standing is holy ground. So now he has to take off his sandals. But now God is getting ready to let Moses know, pretty much, I'm calling you. And which God does, he calls out and he says, "Moses, Moses." And Moses answers, says, "Here I am." He knows it. He's hearing the voice, and he answers now. So now God is getting ready to tell Moses what he needs to do. And pretty much what he wants him to do is just to pretty much to lead the children of Israel out of Egypt. God is tired of the fact of that what his children or his people are going through, is that the cry that the Israelites have made has now reached the ears of God. And God now wants to kind of rescue them out of their oppression and out of their situation. So what is Moses now is being given a task that he has to kind of go and rescue God's people. But what does Moses do? Moses now begins to have excuses. And that is pretty much the topic, or I guess I'll label this message as no more excuses, people. There are no more excuses. You've heard God call your name. You answered. And now God is getting ready to tell you what he wants from you, what he wants you to do. And what I found interesting is that the minute that God told Moses what he wanted to do, which was pretty much, I want to now have you go and rescue my people, these are God's people, rescue them out of Egyptian bondage. But Moses, instead of kind of thinking about like, hey, wait a minute, what an honor to do something for God, to do what God now has called me. He got my attention, I answered, and now I'm getting ready to, he wants me to do something. But Moses now wants to give excuses or wants to question why he doesn't think that he is the one to be able to go now and rescue God's people. I found that so interesting that he is now questioning why God wants him to do what he's doing, and he feels as though I'm not the one for that. But God is going to pretty much answer every one of Moses, or every excuse Moses raises, or every excuse that Moses is going to give. God is going to now answer every single one of those to tell him why he is qualified and what he is to do. So we're just going to kind of go into another verse over here, okay? It says, "But Moses said to God," in verse 11, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh, and that I should bring the children of Israel out of Egypt?" God is like, wait a minute. Who are you? You're God's chosen. We are God's chosen, whether we look at ourselves as being that or not. We are. And now God wants you to do something, and here you are questioning, who am I? God's chosen. That's who you are. He's chosen you for this next task or this next assignment, because he feels as though not in of yourself are you qualified, but because he's called you and he's qualified you. That's why. But then in verse 12, he answers why Moses should go, and pretty much tells Moses like who he is. He said, "I will certainly be with you." Like, you're going to be able to go because I'm with you. You're who I say you are. And I'm choosing you for this next assignment or this next task, but I'm going to be with you. So there's no need to be fearful. There's no need for you to worry about that. There's no need for you to question, who are you? My chosen is who you are. God says, "And this shall be a sign to you that I have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you shall serve God on this mountain. Then Moses said to God, indeed, when I come to the children of Israel and I say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they say to me, what is his name? What shall I say? So now Moses is questioning, okay, we got past the part of who am I, but now he's saying, what shall I say? What shall I say to them now? I'm just baffled again that Moses is questioning what shall he say when God is sending him, which means you're going to say what God says to say. So whoever's hearing it, stop questioning and looking at yourself and wondering what you're going to say, because when you get there, you'll know what to say. For whoever you have to go to kind of minister to, or whoever you might have to speak to, you'll know what to say at that time. You may not know ahead of time, but Moses is given information ahead of time. Sometimes we're not given that information, but we still have to go anyhow because we already heard God call us and we already know he's sending us there. So we have to trust that he's going to give us what we need to say once we get there. But God answers, and God said to Moses, I am who I am. I am who I am. He's God. Just tell him that. Just tell him I am who I am. And he said, thus you shall say to the children of Israel, I am has sent me to you. So wherever you have to go, wherever you're being instructed to go, you have to just know that you're going because God sent you to, God told you to go. God sent you to go there. That's the reason why. That's all you have to do. You just have to go, and then you have to say what God is telling you to say, and that's it. But Moses didn't stop there. Here we go with another excuse. Another excuse. He says, what if they do not believe me or listen? Again, that's not for us to decide. If we are to deliver a message, then we just deliver the message. We're not the ones who got to decide, well, gee, like make somebody believe. Like, what if they don't believe? That's their choice. But we did our part by going and saying what God told us to say, even if they don't believe it or not. We did our part. That's it. You leave it alone after that. Don't question. Don't try to beg and plead people to listen to what you say or to believe what you said. You said it. You told them what God said, and that's the end of it. You move on. It's out of your hands at that point in time. But that is in Exodus 4 and verse 1. When then Moses answered and said, but suppose they will not believe me or listen to my voice. Suppose they say the Lord has not appeared to you. It's not your place to question and say, oh, if they don't believe me, then you know, what do I tell them next? You don't tell them anything else. You leave that rest to God. God has to do that. God has to convince them that, you know what the message that you were sent to say to them, God has to now kind of prick the person's heart to convince them or convict them that the word you delivered is indeed from him. It's not our job. So the Lord said to Moses, what is in your hand? He said, a rod. So God is now going to demonstrate, just in case the people don't believe, God is going to demonstrate with these miracles, with this rod that Moses now has in his possession, to show them like that they have every reason to believe. But again, if they choose not to, there's nothing that we can do about that. You said it, you move on. Another excuse that he says, or reason, is Moses now gets to say, I can't speak right, which pretty much is saying, I don't have the right, I'm not eloquent enough. My speech is not the best. And that is found in Exodus 4, chapter 4, verse 10. If I can get to my page, sorry about that. Then Moses said to the Lord, O my Lord, I am not eloquent, neither before nor since you have spoken to your servant, but I am slow of speech and slow of tongue. Another excuse. What is your excuse? What excuse are you giving God now for why you cannot move forward in what he's asked you to do, or to go speak, or to go say to someone? Because you're caught up in how you sound. You're thinking your voice is like either too low, too loud, too graspy. I don't know. Or maybe you're worried about how your lips move. Do your lips move like they're crooked? Do they look funny to you? It doesn't matter. You worry about, do your teeth look right? Do your hair look right? Your eyes look right? It doesn't matter. God pretty much just said to go do something for him, and that's all that he wants you to do. He didn't say worry about how it might look. That's not our responsibility. We're getting caught up in all the things in our own ability that we can do. But God is like, don't worry about that. I'm sending you. I'm called you to go do this. Go do it. Don't try to convince people. Say what I say. Don't get caught up in how you sound, how it might be perceived to people, how people might look at you because you're delivering this message. That's not the part for you to be concerned with. I simply need you to go do what I told you to do. That's it. You know, when I was reading this, it kind of reminded me of how some kids are today. When their parents tell them to go do something, they'll sit and they'll question, well, why do I have to do that? Why can't you ask my brother, or why can't you ask my sister? And the mothers or fathers looking at it, because I told you. You go do it. I told you to do it. I'm not asking anybody else to do that. You're the one who has to go do that. And that's funny because it's how we do it sometimes. As growing up, I didn't have an option. It was like if you were told to do it, you did it. But now this generation of kids, forget it. They're going to go and they're going to not go move right away. They're going to talk back and say, why do I got to do it? Like, I always do it. No, you probably don't always do it. You probably don't. But if you're always making the mess, then maybe you always need to be the one to do it. So just go ahead and do it. But I feel like that's how it was with Moses and God. Like Moses now, like pretty much why me? Because I'm not even good at speaking. I'm not good at this. But God is like, listen, I need you to go do this. Get the focus off of you. My people need help. My people are crying out to me. My people are oppressed. And I need you to go speak an encouraging word to them. Or I need you to go and tell Pharaoh to let the people go. I need you to do that. Why are you caught up in yourself? I need you to get out of yourself and go do what God told you to do. I don't know who's listening, but stop with all the excuses, worrying about, who am I? Why me? Why it gotta be me? Why not you? You want God to use you, and then you want to get to pick how he uses you? You don't get to pick that. Your responsibility is to just go. If he told you, he gave you the assignment, you go, you deliver it, and whether they don't believe you or not, it doesn't matter. You go and do that piece, and it's over for you. That's it. You don't got to give all these excuses. Someone's going to look at you funny. Let them look at you funny. You have to obey what God has called you to go do, regardless of what anyone thinks, regardless of what you think about yourself. Because when you're going, you're not going in your own strength. You're not going in your own ability. You have God backing you. That is why you go. And that's all you need to know. God has your back and is going with you. Go speak what he said. Just go speak it. Go encourage somebody else. Go tell somebody what God said. Get out of yourself and do what he's asked you to do. No more questioning, no more excuses, no more looking at yourself thinking you don't qualify. It don't matter. You do qualify. He called you. And if he called you, guess what? That means he equipped you. So go do what he told you to do. But it didn't stop there. There was one final thing. After all those excuses, about 4 of them, then Moses now finally pretty much says, send somebody else, God. I don't even want to go. He got to the point. Just send somebody else. I don't want to do this. Send someone else. And that was in Exodus chapter 14, verse 13. He said, oh my Lord, please send by the hand of whomever else you may send. And guess what? Now God is angry. I don't want to get to the place. I don't want you to get to the place to where we now make God angry. Because we decided to tell him, God, I don't want to be the one. Send somebody else. Can you imagine that? God handpicked us to go do something. And it's almost like we're just like giving him a slap in the face. Like, I don't want to do it. You don't want to do it. So you're going to keep on asking God about what to do, or you're going to be praying to God about situations. And when he tells you what to do, then you're going to be like, what? I don't want to do that. Every time he gives you an answer, or every time he asks you to do something, you're going to be like, I don't want to do that. Because now you're picking and choosing what it is that you feel as though you're going to obey and how you're going to respond to something that God has told you to do. That's going to do nothing but anger God, and we don't want to anger God. But what I found interesting is that even though God got angry, and Moses didn't want to go and wanted God to send somebody else, God pretty much was like, well, I'm going to send Aaron with you. Aaron will go. But Aaron is going to speak what God gives Moses to say. Like, God is going to speak to Moses, and Moses is going to tell Aaron, and Aaron's going to speak that. So guess what? It didn't matter that Moses felt like he don't send me. God was still sending him. So it's not like you're getting out of what you feel as though, you don't want to do that. You're not getting out of it. You still have to go do it. But you should be honored by knowing that God is choosing you. You matter to God. I matter to God. We all matter to God. So why don't you just make up in your mind that you're going to do what he wants you to do? With no more excuses. It's enough excuses, excuse after excuse after excuse. But yet when we're on our jobs, we jump for everything. When someone says do something, we're there to do it. We don't necessarily, most of us are probably not questioning why. We just go about and do it. We don't say, well, why am I doing it? Why not ask Susie to do it? Why is Karen not doing it? No, we pretty much say, okay, that's what I got to do. And if we feel as though we don't know how to do it, we may ask questions. But in the end of it all, when it's all done and said, we're pretty much still the ones who have to go do it. So no matter what your excuse is, or no matter what you're trying to get out of, guess what? You're not. So just surrender to God and go do what he's asked you to do. If God is asking you to do something, just do it. Stop with the excuses. Because the things that God is asking us to do, they're not impossible for God. And they're not impossible with God. It's when we think we're doing everything in and of ourselves. Because we're not. We're doing what God is sending us to go do. We're speaking what God is telling us to speak. It's not our job to convince or make someone believe. He didn't say do all of that. He just simply said, here's what I want you to do. Go to Pharaoh, say this, and that's the end of it. No more. The end of discussion. So I don't know who you might be, who's out there. But God is wanting you to do something. And guess what? God can use ordinary people to do extraordinary things. I need you to get out the way. I need you to get out the way and let God do what he wants to do through you. Trust God that when he's sending you somewhere, you're equipped to do what he's told you to do. So what I want you to do is fix in your mind, in your spirit, get settled in your spirit that, listen, you have what you need to do what God has called you to do. If God has called you to go out there to feed people, go feed them. Don't worry about all the other extra stuff. If God has called you out there to go evangelize, to minister, to do whatever it might be, go do that. If he said to simply go out there to go pray for somebody, go pray for somebody. Don't worry about if you got a specific title or if God told you, you go do it. It don't matter what anyone else is thinking or how anyone else is looking at you. They can look at you like you're crazy. It doesn't matter. When you're fully persuaded and convinced that you're doing what you're doing because God has told you to do it, that settles everything. You're not going out there to try to get people's approval. You're not going out there to say, okay, wait a minute. Let me try to convince the people that God really did send me here and God really did give me this message and this is what God really... That's not your job. Go speak what he's told you to say and simply keep it moving. That's the end of the discussion. So today I want to say to you, guess what? No more excuses. Stop questioning. Stop wondering all these things. You're not going to have all the answers right up front. Maybe sometimes God will give you the answer, but maybe not. Because he wants you to just step out on faith. So go step out on faith and do what God is doing because guess what? People are dying. People are still being oppressed because you will not go and do what God wants you to do. You may be the cause for why people are in a situation longer than what they have to be in. Because you're refusing to go and say, oh, let me go and tell somebody what God spoke. You're delaying their pain or their suffering. You're delaying it. Just like Moses, by asking all these questions, was delaying the deliverance of the Israelites out of Egyptian bondage. Don't question any longer. You have to move. It's imperative that you move. Somebody's life depends on your next move. Someone's life depends on you, what you go speak into their life right now. Go move and do what God has called you to do. That's it. That is the message for today. And I thank you for tuning in today. But again, I just want you to kind of focus on who is backing you in every step of the way. God has your back. God is going with you. And that's all you need. So God bless you and see you again soon.